Fear is one of the oldest emotions we carry, etched deep into our biology, whispering warnings of danger, urging us to retreat, hesitate, or shrink in the face of the unknown. It is the voice that tells us to stay within the lines, to avoid risks, to remain where it's safe. And yet, what if fear isn't meant to limit us, but to teach us? What if, instead of being a prison, fear is an invitation, an opportunity to transform hesitation into power, self-doubt into belief, and limitations into liberation? Welcome to the Alchemy of Belief, Turning Fear into Freedom, written and published by Mindful Literary, an exploration of the silent force that dictates so much of our lives. This book is not about eliminating fear. That would be impossible. Instead, it's about understanding its roots, its influence, and most importantly, its potential. Like an alchemist who turns lead into gold, we will learn to transmute fear into fuel, limitation into opportunity, and uncertainty into boundless possibility. In these chapters, we will examine fear from every angle, its biological, psychological, and social foundations. We will uncover the hidden narratives that keep us afraid, and we will challenge them. Through reflection, science, and practical strategies, we will dismantle the fears that hold us back and replace them with a belief system that empowers us to move forward. But this isn't just a book about ideas. It's an invitation to step into your own transformation. You will be asked to reflect on your fears, challenge them, and reframe them into stepping stones rather than roadblocks. Because the truth is this: the freedom you seek is already within you. It has always been there, waiting beneath the weight of hesitation and doubt. The question is, are you ready to claim it? Chapter 1: The Nature of Fear. Understanding fear as a survival mechanism. It's a primal instinct designed to alert us when we are faced with threats, whether they be physical, emotional, or psychological. I often find myself marveling at how quickly fear can rise within us, almost instantaneously, as a reaction to perceived threats. This reaction triggers a cascade of physiological changes in our bodies. Our heart races, our palms sweat, and our muscles tense. These are all components of the fight or flight response, a safeguard that has kept human beings alive for millennia. Understanding this biological response allows us to appreciate the deep-rooted connections between our mind and body, helping us realize that fear isn't merely an inconvenient emotion. It's a vital survival mechanism that has played a crucial role in our evolutionary journey. Rather than viewing fear simply as something to be avoided or suppressed, reframing it as a natural and necessary part of our existence reveals the complexity of our emotional landscape. Fear provides us with valuable insights into what we care about and what we want to protect. When we encounter fear, it's an opportunity to explore our boundaries, understand our vulnerabilities, and ultimately grow. Instead of shying away from fearful moments, we can learn to embrace them. This shift in perception allows us to harness fear's energy, using it as a source of motivation to face challenges rather than a barrier that holds us back. By accepting fear as an integral aspect of who we are, we can cultivate resilience and adaptability in an ever-changing world. A practical approach to understanding fear involves actively engaging with it rather than avoiding it. The next time you feel fear creeping in, pause and assess the situation. Ask yourself what specifically is making you feel this way. Is it a genuine threat, or is it an anxiety about an outcome? Allowing yourself to reflect in this manner not only demystifies fear, but also empowers you. The more we understand the nature of our fears, the better equipped we become to navigate them. This practice of reflection can transform fear from a debilitating force into a powerful tool for personal growth. The biological response: fight or flight. The experience of fear triggers a series of physiological changes in our body that are deeply rooted in our biology. When faced with a threat, our brain quickly assesses the situation, activating the amygdala, which is responsible for processing emotions. This activation leads to the release of stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, preparing our body for immediate action. Heart rate increases, breathing becomes more rapid, and blood is redirected to essential muscles, giving us the strength and speed for a potential fight or a hasty escape. Our senses sharpen, making us hyper-aware of our surroundings. These changes are designed to keep us alive in dangerous situations, allowing us to respond swiftly to threats, whether they be lurking predators or modern-day challenges like public speaking or job interviews. However, as we navigate life in a world that often feels overwhelming, These primal reactions can sometimes clash with our modern coping mechanisms. In situations where there is no actual physical danger, like receiving critical feedback at work or dealing with anxiety about an upcoming event, the fight or flight response can become misaligned. Instead of empowering us, it may leave us paralyzed or overwhelmed. We might feel an intense urge to run away or confront a situation that doesn't warrant such an extreme response. This disconnection between our ancient biological wiring and contemporary life can result in heightened stress and anxiety, making everyday situations appear more daunting than they truly are. To bridge this gap, it can be beneficial to practice mindfulness and grounding techniques. Taking a moment to breathe deeply and focus on the present can help calm the body's fight or flight response. By recognizing when we are reacting out of fear rather than responding thoughtfully, we can reclaim our sense of control and navigate the complexities of modern life more effectively. Embracing this awareness allows us to cultivate resilience, enabling us to face challenges with a clearer mind and a steadier heart. Fear's role in shaping our experiences. When we experience fear, our brains react in complex ways that often alter how we later recall those moments. Some events seem almost magnified through the lens of fear. For instance, a frightening experience can make our memories more vivid, filled with sharp details, while mundane moments fade into obscurity. It's fascinating to me how my recollections of such events are often colored by the emotional intensity at the time. When I think back to a challenging moment filled with fear, it's as if that emotional weight adds layers to the experience, distorting it in the eyes of memory. The adrenaline rush, heart racing, and that instinctive urge to flee are etched into those memories, creating a narrative far removed from quieter, more peaceful experiences. The way we remember can serve as a protective mechanism. It helps us avoid what scares us in the future, yet it can also cloud our understanding of those past moments, twisting realities to fit our emotional responses. The stories we tell ourselves about our lives are often framed by our emotional experiences, particularly those heightened by fear. In moments of reflection, I find myself pondering how fears weave their way through my narrative, crafting a version of my history that sometimes feels unrecognizable. By recognizing that fear skews our memories, we unlock the potential for deeper insight into our behaviors and choices. This recognition can lead to personal growth. It allows us to question the validity of our past judgments and understand the motivations behind our fears. When we confront the ways fear has shaped our experiences, we can start reshaping our stories, looking beyond those distorted lenses. This process can be both liberating and enlightening, helping to create a more balanced view of our past and a healthier framework for our future. Ultimately, it's a journey of transforming fear into understanding, fostering resilience as we learn to navigate our personal narratives with clarity and intention. To begin shifting your perspective, try to consciously differentiate between memories shaped by fear and those based on calm reflection. Journaling your thoughts can help clarify your experiences and enhance your understanding of their emotional roots. By examining these memories without the fog of fear, we can reclaim our narratives, rewrite our stories, and emerge with a clearer sense of who we are beyond our fears. Chapter 2: Fear and the Mind. Cognitive Distortions: How Our Thoughts Amplify Fear. Identifying common cognitive distortions that magnify our fears is an essential first step in unraveling the tight grip that anxiety can have on us. We've all experienced moments where our thoughts spin out of control, making minor issues feel seismic. This tendency often stems from cognitive distortions, which are patterns of thinking that lead us to perceive reality in a skewed way. For instance, let's consider catastrophizing, where a small setback feels like a monumental disaster. Maybe a friend cancels plans last minute, and instead of seeing it as a simple change, you spiral into thoughts that suggest they don't care about you. Another common distortion is all-or-nothing thinking, where you might view a situation in black and white, failing to see the gray. If you didn't achieve everything on your to-do list for the day, you may feel as though you failed entirely. These distortions amplify our fears, turning thoughts that should simply be minor concerns into overwhelming waves that can drown our ability to cope. Exploring strategies to challenge and reframe these distorted thoughts becomes crucial in our journey toward mental resilience. One effective tactic is to practice self-reflection. When you notice a distorted thought creeping in, pause and assess the evidence. Ask yourself, is this thought based on facts or feelings? Think about contradictions to that thought. For instance, If you're thinking you'll never succeed because of one setback, remind yourself of the times you've overcome challenges before. Another powerful method is replacing negative thoughts with more balanced ones. Instead of saying, "I always mess things up," try shifting to, "Sometimes I make mistakes, but I also succeed." Writing these reframed thoughts down can make the process even more effective, providing a tangible record that you can revisit during times of doubt. Engaging in mindfulness practices can also help. By grounding yourself in the present moment, you create space to observe your thoughts without judgment. This can reduce their power over you and ultimately lessen the fear they evoke. By employing these techniques, we can begin to take back control over our minds and the fears that threaten to overwhelm us. Reframing our thoughts doesn't just change our perspective. It empowers us to face challenges with clarity and confidence. One practical tip to integrate into your daily routine is to set a specific time each day for these reflections and thought challenges. Whether through journaling or mental exercises, integrating this habit can create a structured space for processing fears and improving emotional well-being. The psychology of anxiety, roots and responses. Anxiety can often be misunderstood. While it shares a close relationship with fear, they are not the same. Fear is a response to an immediate threat, a primitive reaction that has ensured our survival throughout history. Anxiety, on the other hand, is more complex. It emerges from the anticipation of potential threats that may or may not materialize. This anticipation can evoke feelings of apprehension, restlessness, or dread, even in the absence of an immediate danger. For me, recognizing this distinction has been crucial. It highlights that anxiety can exist without a direct provocation, often stemming from our thoughts about the future. It's like standing on the edge of a cliff, not because there's a lion ready to pounce, but because we fear the possibility of falling. Connected to this is the reality that our psychological framework has been shaped by our experiences, genetics, and environments, all of which play into our unique responses to these feelings. Diving deeper, I began to explore how different people respond to anxiety. Some may resort to avoidance, steering clear of situations that trigger their anxiety. This can lead to a narrowing of experiences and opportunities, creating a cycle hard to break. Others might confront their anxious feelings head-on, utilizing coping strategies that can transform their experience. I have noticed that these strategies can differ dramatically. Some find solace in mindfulness or breathing exercises, while others may seek support from friends, family, or even professionals. Each response not only shapes our emotional landscape, but also influences how we view ourselves and our world. By understanding our responses to anxiety, we can begin to understand ourselves on a deeper level. This journey is not just about managing anxiety, but about discovering who we are beneath the layers of nervousness and awakening to a more empowered self. As I reflect on these insights, I realize the importance of being kind to ourselves during anxious moments. It is okay to acknowledge these feelings, to sit with them, and ultimately to learn from them. One practical approach I've found helpful is to keep a journal. This practice allows me to articulate my thoughts and feelings, making the chaotic swirl of anxiety more manageable. Documenting our experiences not only provides clarity, but can also illuminate patterns we may not have noticed before. It's a small step, but it can lead us into deeper self-awareness, enabling us to navigate our emotional worlds with more compassion and understanding. The impact of fear on decision-making. Fear often lurks in the corners of our minds, subtly influencing our judgments and choices without us even realizing it. When faced with situations that provoke fear, be it a looming deadline, a critical life choice, or the unpredictability of the future, our brains can become overwhelmed. This overwhelming sensation often leads to a clouding of our judgment, pushing us to make decisions that may not truly reflect our values or desires. Instead of carefully weighing our options, we might hastily retreat to what's familiar or safe, allowing fear to override our rational thought processes. Recognizing the hold fear has on us is the first step toward reclaiming our ability to make informed choices. One effective strategy is to take a moment to pause and breathe deeply when fear strikes. This simple act creates space for reflection. Asking ourselves questions like, "What am I really afraid of?" or "What decision aligns with my core values?" can shift the focus away from paralyzing anxiety and toward empowering clarity. Engaging with supportive friends or mentors who can offer an outside perspective also helps anchor our decisions in a place of value rather than fear. Instead of rushing toward choices that are driven by anxiety, we should cultivate a practice of aligning our decisions with our truest selves, embracing courage over caution whenever possible. Chapter 3: Societal Influences on Fear. Cultural Narratives: How Society Shapes Our Fears. Cultural myths and stories hold a powerful influence over collective fears. They shape our understanding of what is dangerous and what is safe, often dictating how we respond to various situations. Consider how folklore and traditional tales embed themselves within our psyche, reinforcing ideas about monsters lurking in the dark or the consequences of defying societal norms. These stories are more than mere entertainment. They are cautionary tales that help communities navigate the complexities of fear. Myths carry the weight of generations, embedding fears into the fabric of shared identity. When I reflect on the tales passed down through my family, I can see how they wove a narrative that created a lens through which to view threats, both real and imagined. Societal norms further amplify this effect by establishing a framework that dictates acceptable behaviors and emotional responses. Individual experiences of fear are often filtered through the lens of societal expectations. For instance, a person might feel fear in a specific situation, yet that fear may be dismissed or exaggerated based on what society deems appropriate. An individual who fears failure might internalize that emotion as a reflection of their worth, feeling pressured by societal benchmarks of success. Through this, we can see that our individual fear experiences are rarely isolated. They are interconnected with the beliefs held by those around us. The silent pressures around us create a constant state of comparison, often leaving us feeling vulnerable and isolated. Recognizing these influences can be the first step toward reclaiming our own narratives and understanding the fears we harbor. As we navigate our relationship with fear, acknowledging the cultural narratives that shape our experiences is crucial. One practical tip to consider is to engage in conversations about these narratives with friends or family. By sharing our fears and discussing their origins, we can begin to untangle the myths that might not serve us anymore. This practice can foster a stronger sense of community and diminish the power of fear, allowing us to redefine our personal stories in healthier, more empowering ways. Media and the amplification of fear. Media plays a powerful role in shaping our perceptions, often amplifying our sense of risk and danger. The constant barrage of news stories, be it from television, social media, or online platforms, creates a narrative that can skew our understanding of reality. For example, when a tragic event occurs, the media tends to focus on it extensively, replaying footage and exploring every detail. This focus makes us feel as though these events are more common than they truly are. I find it intriguing how our brains can latch onto these stories, sometimes even in ways that don't reflect actual threats. It's essential to recognize that fear can be used as a tool in media for engagement, often leading us to react without fully understanding context. The phenomenon of doom scrolling captures this perfectly, as we find ourselves glued to our screens, absorbing negative headlines that prey on our innate fear responses. By being aware of how these narratives are spun, we can begin to detach our feelings from the information being presented and look critically at what we consume. To mitigate fear responses, it's crucial to develop strategies for critically consuming media. One effective approach is to slow down and fact-check before reacting emotionally. When a story breaks, I ask myself questions. Who reported this? What are the sources? Is this information being sensationalized? By taking these steps, I create a buffer against panic and stress. It helps to seek out balanced viewpoints through reputable channels that present both sides of an issue. This practice not only broadens our perspective, but also dilutes the power of fear by grounding us in reality. Another strategy involves diversifying our sources of information. Instead of relying on a single news outlet, I make a conscious effort to consume news from various perspectives. This often provides me with a more nuanced understanding of the world around me. Additionally, taking breaks from news consumption can allow our minds to reset and prevent the buildup of anxiety that fear-driven media can create. When we acknowledge the power of media over our emotional responses, we can begin to reclaim control over how we react to the world's events. Peer pressure, fear of judgment, and acceptance. The fear of judgment is a powerful force that shapes our behavior and choices, particularly in social settings. It can transform how we dress, speak, or even think about ourselves. I remember the first time I felt that pressure. It was during a high school gathering, where the unspoken rules dictated what was cool and what wasn't. In those moments, I found myself making choices not based on my desires, but rather on the silent assessment of my peers. Many of us worry about appearing different, fearing that standing out could lead to exclusion. This fear often compels individuals to conform, even to choices that do not resonate with their authentic selves. The desire for acceptance can overshadow personal values and lead to a constant cycle of approval-seeking behavior, making it hard to trust one's instincts or preferences. Overcoming peer-induced fears is essential for building genuine connections with others. One effective strategy I've discovered is to gradually expose myself to situations where I can express my true self without the weight of judgment holding me back. This might involve sharing a unique interest with a close friend or participating in activities that feel authentic to my identity. Another approach is to engage in self-reflection, reminding myself that everyone has their insecurities, and those who judge are often struggling with their fears of acceptance too. Creating a supportive network can also be transformative. Surrounding myself with individuals who value authenticity allows for richer, more meaningful interactions. By taking small steps toward embracing who I am, I've found that the fear of judgment diminishes, making room for connections that are not only honest but fulfilling. Building awareness of how peer pressure influences our choices is the first step toward breaking free from its constraints. It helps to remind ourselves that acceptance starts from within. Embracing individual differences can create a more inclusive environment for everyone, allowing us to be open and courageous in expressing our true selves. The next time you feel the weight of judgment, pause and consider the value of authenticity. Sharing your genuine thoughts or interests might inspire others to do the same, fostering a sense of belonging that is both freeing and enriching. Chapter 4: Personal Narratives, Transforming Fear. Sharing our stories, the power of vulnerability. Storytelling plays a crucial role in how we process our experiences, particularly our fears. Each time I share a personal story, I find a layer of understanding about myself that wasn't apparent before. When I confront my fears through narrative, I cast light on shadows that often loom large in silence. It becomes a powerful act of self-exploration, where vulnerability transforms daunting experiences into relatable tales. As I reflect on my past, weaving the threads of fear into the tapestry of my life, I realize that every story I share can help demystify my emotions, making them easier to face and ultimately to manage. The act of storytelling serves as a bridge over the chasm of isolation. It allows me to not only recognize my own struggles, but also to connect with others who may feel similarly. Every pause, every quiver in my voice as I recount my experiences is a reminder that I am human, just like everyone else. Through sharing our stories, we mirror each other's fears, creating a space where we don't have to feel alone in our battles. Vulnerability is the gateway to deeper connections, both with ourselves and with others. When I allow myself to be open and honest about my insecurities or past traumas, I feel a weight lift. It is as if I am shedding layers that no longer serve me. This openness does not only invite empathy from others, it also fosters greater self-compassion. I begin to see my flaws not as liabilities, but as part of a shared human experience. In moments of vulnerability, I often notice others responding in kind, sharing their own stories and fears without hesitation. It is in these exchanges that true connection happens. We find ourselves sitting shoulder to shoulder, united in our imperfections and our courage to share them. The deeper we dive into our vulnerabilities, the more profound our relationships become. We build a collective narrative that celebrates not just our triumphs but also our trials, and in doing so, we create a community where everyone feels safe to express themselves. Embracing vulnerability can be daunting, but it is a skill that anyone can cultivate. A practical approach is to start small by sharing a story or a thought that feels manageable. It could be a childhood experience, an embarrassing moment, or simply a feeling you've had during a challenging time. Pay attention to the reactions of those around you. Often, you'll find them nodding along, perhaps sharing their own stories in return. This simple act can start to knit together threads of empathy and understanding. By choosing to be vulnerable, we don't just create connections. We also empower ourselves, acknowledging that it is okay not to be perfect. The stories we share foster resilience, not just within ourselves, but in the communities we build around us. Lessons from fear: what we learn through adversity. Fear has a unique way of pushing us beyond our comfort zones, revealing lessons we might otherwise overlook. When I think back to the moments in my life that filled me with dread, I can identify how those experiences acted as catalysts for personal growth. Each encounter with fear forced me to confront uncomfortable truths about myself and the world around me. It was during these times that I learned the value of resilience and adaptability. Whether it was facing a daunting task at work or navigating the emotional landscape of a difficult relationship, I discovered that fear often points us toward areas of our lives that require attention. By recognizing these fearful moments as opportunities for growth, I started to transform my perspective, seeing fear not as an enemy, but as a guide that illuminated the path to self-improvement and understanding. Transforming adversity into strength often requires mindful reflection, a practice I'm still learning to master. When I take a step back and carefully consider the challenges I've faced, I start to unravel the lessons woven into the fabric of those experiences. Mindful reflection brings clarity. It allows me to sort through emotions, identifying which fears stemmed from external sources and which were more about my internal narrative. By being present in my reflections, I can shift my focus from what went wrong to what I can learn. Each time I allow myself to sit with my thoughts, I realize how adversity has shaped my character and built my resilience. These reflections empower me, turning fear into fuel that propels me forward, helping me tackle future challenges with more confidence and grace. One practical tip I've found effective in processing fear and extracting valuable lessons is journaling. Writing down my thoughts immediately after experiencing fear allows me to articulate my feelings without judgment. When I put pen to paper, I discover patterns and insights that might otherwise remain buried beneath confusion and anxiety. Journaling does not just help me reflect, it helps me map my growth journey. I can see how past struggles transformed into strengths and guide my future actions. Embracing fear through mindful reflection can be a powerful tool. It teaches us that adversity doesn't need to paralyze us. Instead, it can be a transformative force in our lives. Finding resilience, personal growth through challenge. Understanding resilience as a response to fear and challenge is essential in shaping how we confront life's inevitable difficulties. Resilience is not simply about bouncing back from setbacks. It's a dynamic process that involves adapting to the pressures and fears we face. When fear knocks at the door, it can be paralyzing. I have often found that it's in these moments of fear where the seed of resilience is sown. Rather than allowing fear to dictate my actions, I have learned to see it as a signal, an opportunity to examine what threatens me and, in turn, to understand my own limitations and strengths. Each challenge presents a crossroads, urging me to either stagnate in despair or to evolve and grow beyond what I once thought possible. Through experiences, I've realized that resilience is built on the recognition of our fears as debris from the past that we must clear away to see the possibilities before us. Building resilience through action and positive self-affirmation is a practice I have embraced over the years. Each step I take towards confronting a challenge is a step towards reinforcing my belief in my abilities. I remember a time when I faced a significant career setback. Instead of surrendering to self-doubt, I began to affirm my skills and accomplishments daily. Little by little, each positive affirmation chipped away at my insecurity, cultivating a mindset where challenges became stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. Taking intentional actions, no matter how small, serves to reinforce my resilience. I learned that resilience also means reaching out for support when necessary. A listening ear or a guiding touch can make a world of difference. By taking action and believing in my worth, I have developed a deeper well of resilience, one that not only supports me through trials, but also propels me forward in life. Every experience we face can foster resilience as long as we remain aware and engaged in the process. Finding resilience lies not just in our ability to endure, but in our willingness to grow actively amid difficulties. The next time fear looms, consider it not a dead end, but a pathway to discovery. Practice positive self-talk. Remind yourself of past victories and strengths, and don't hesitate to take that first courageous step forward. Remember, resilience is a muscle that grows stronger with each challenge faced and overcome. Chapter 5: Tools for Demystifying Fear. Mindfulness and its role in facing fear. Mindfulness is a powerful practice that has transformed my understanding of fear. When I began to explore this concept, I discovered how staying present could change my entire experience with anxiety. Fear often feels like an overwhelming wave, pulling me under and creating a sense of chaos and helplessness. However, grounding myself in the here and now allows me to acknowledge my emotions without becoming consumed by them. Recognizing that fear is just a reaction, rather than an indicator of my reality, has offered me the tools to face it with a clearer mind. In those moments of panic, I remind myself that the present is where my power lies, and that each thought and feeling simply exists for a moment, not forever. To cultivate present moment awareness, I have found several techniques that help alleviate the grip of fear. One simple yet effective method is focusing on my breath. When fear begins to surface, I take a few deep breaths, feeling the air filling my lungs and then slowly escaping, anchoring myself in that rhythm. This practice not only steadies my mind, but also creates a space where I can observe my fear without judgment. Besides breath work, engaging my senses connects me to the present. I pay attention to the textures I feel, the sounds around me, or even the smells in the air. These moments of sensory engagement pull my focus away from future worries and bring me back into my body, reminding me that I am safe in this moment. Another helpful approach is to create a daily mindfulness routine. Setting aside even a few minutes each day to practice mindfulness through meditation or simply being still can foster the resilience needed to face fear when it arises. It's about building a muscle, developing the ability to return to the present in moments of distress. Keeping a journal can also be a brilliant tool, allowing me to express my fears, examine them, and then release them. Writing helps me to clarify my thoughts and separate reality from my anxious imagination. Just knowing that I have these techniques at my disposal gives me the confidence to look fear in the eye, reassured that I have the tools to respond with calm and clarity. Remember, in every moment of fear, your breath can be your anchor to the present. Cognitive behavioral techniques to reframe fear. Practical cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, techniques are essential when confronting and reframing anxious thoughts. One powerful technique is cognitive restructuring, which involves identifying negative or distorted thoughts and challenging their validity. For instance, when I feel an overwhelming sense of dread before a public speaking engagement, I focus on pinpointing the specific thoughts spiraling through my mind. Questions such as, what evidence do I have that this will end poorly? Or what would I tell a friend feeling this way? Shift my perspective. By systematically examining the truth behind my fear, I begin to notice patterns and gradations of thought that aren't accurate, thus reframing my initial reaction into something manageable and realistic. Developing a toolkit for combating the narratives that fuel fear is a gradual but empowering process. Each person is unique, so it's crucial to stock your toolkit with techniques that resonate with you personally. One approach is journaling about your fears and the thoughts attached to them. Writing things down not only externalizes the thoughts, but allows me to analyze them. Additionally, mindfulness practices can be integrated, such as deep breathing or meditation, centering the mind in the present and diffusing the intensity of the fear. I find visualizing a positive outcome before facing a feared situation helps alter the narrative I tell myself. Always remember, it's not just about eliminating fear. It's about understanding it and giving yourself permission to feel anxious, while also realizing that your thoughts don't have to dictate your actions. This kind of self-acceptance is a pivotal step in transforming fear into a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. Embracing these techniques opens the door to profoundly changing our relationship with fear. Instead of being a paralyzing force, fear can be leveraged as a signal to prepare, grow, and expand our comfort zones. In moments of anxiety, consider carrying a small reminder with you, a quote, a mantra, or even a simple note with a few encouraging words. When fear strikes, take a moment to read it, allowing it to ground you and serve as a gentle nudge toward rationality. Approach fear not just as something to overcome, but as a natural part of being human, deserving of understanding and compassionate engagement. Journaling, a pathway to understanding fear. Using journaling as a therapeutic tool allows me to articulate and reflect on my fears in a way that feels safe and structured. The act of writing down my anxieties brings them into the open, transforming intangible thoughts into tangible words. As I flesh out the details of my fears, I observe their shapes and dimensions. I find myself delving into the depths of what frightens me, be it fear of failure, rejection, or the unknown. Each entry acts like a mirror, reflecting back my innermost thoughts and feelings. This exploration helps me recognize the stories I tell myself. Instead of allowing those fears to swirl chaotically in my mind, I learn to confront them, examining their origins and questioning their validity. I notice that while some fears are rooted in reality, others stem from past experiences or societal expectations that no longer serve me. As I continue this practice of regular journaling, patterns and insights begin to emerge. With time, I start to see recurring themes in my writing. Certain fears pop up frequently, revealing underlying issues I might have been unaware of. This repetition is a clue, urging me to dig deeper. Through this lens, my fears transform from being sporadic anxieties into pathways guiding me to personal growth. I realize that some of these fears are borrowed from the expectations of others, while others highlight values that I hold dear. With each session, I become more attuned to the nuance of my internal dialogue. Identifying these patterns becomes a powerful tool, allowing me to approach my fears with curiosity rather than dread. The practice of journaling has not only been about exploring fear, but also about finding empowerment in understanding it. Every time I sit down to write, I'm reminded that fear can be a guiding force rather than a paralyzing one. It encourages me to take action and make choices aligned with my true self. When the fears emerge, I don't just document them, I also respond to them. I consider what they might be asking from me or how they could signal a need for change. This way, journaling becomes a dynamic conversation rather than a static reflection. It opens doors to resilience and self-discovery, reminding us that fear can be the precursor to growth. Using prompts like, "What does this fear teach me?" or "How can I move forward despite feeling afraid?" becomes vital in my journaling journey. Each new entry is not just a reflection of where I am, but a stepping stone toward understanding myself more fully. Chapter 6: Fear versus Freedom. The dichotomy of fear and freedom in our lives. Fear often acts as a double-edged sword in our lives. On one side, it serves as a protective mechanism, alerting us to potential dangers. However, on the other side, fear can create invisible barriers that limit our freedom. These limitations are often self-imposed, birthed from past experiences or societal conditioning. I have found that fear might stem from unfamiliarity, whether it's a fear of failure, rejection, or the unknown. Each time I hesitate to take a step forward, I realize that this hesitation is rooted in a fear that has somehow taken hold of me. It whispers to me that I am not capable of achieving my desires, or that the cost of trying might outweigh the potential rewards. In these moments, it's crucial to recognize that while fear is natural and can keep us safe, it often keeps us shackled to our comfort zones, preventing us from experiencing the full range of life's possibilities. In contrast, the path to liberation lies in the act of confronting these fears head-on. For me, acknowledging what scares me has been the first step toward freedom. I learned that when I name my fears, they lose some of their power over me. Whether it's standing up to public speaking or tackling a daunting project, facing my fears has led to personal growth and newfound confidence. Each small victory I achieve leads me to confront even larger fears. This cycle of recognition and confrontation helps dismantle the barriers I once believed were insurmountable. I found that fear often diminishes when I take the brave step to move toward it, essentially flipping the script on the narrative that fear has penned in my mind. Embracing discomfort is a powerful tool in this journey toward freedom. Understanding that every experience of fear can be an opportunity for growth transforms how I view challenges. Practical steps, such as setting small, attainable goals or seeking support from others, create pathways that allow me to move past my fears. As I challenge my limits, I continuously experience the liberation that comes with each conquered fear. By choosing to face the things that frighten me instead of retreating, I not only reclaim my freedom, but also discover new facets of myself that I never knew existed. This ongoing process inspires me to encourage others to reflect on their fears and consider what freedom might look like if they took steps toward facing them. Therein lies a valuable lesson. Freedom is not merely the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. How fear limits our growth potential. Fear often creeps into our lives, lurking in various corners, subtly shaping our decisions and actions. It's crucial to identify where fear manifests most strongly, as these areas often coincide with significant opportunities for growth. For many, fear arises when confronted with change or the unknown. This could be in the context of pursuing a new career, embracing a creative endeavor, or even standing up for oneself in personal relationships. Each time we allow fear to take the driver's seat, we dim our potential to evolve and develop. The shackles of self-doubt can prevent us from seeking out new experiences, leading to a stagnant existence that ultimately fosters discontent. Recognizing these key areas of fear, whether it be fear of failure, fear of judgment, or fear of leaving behind the familiar, can pave the way to understanding our limitations. This awareness is the first step in reclaiming our freedom to grow. To combat fear and unlock our growth potential, we must deploy strategies that help us push through its constraints. One powerful approach is reframing our perspective on fear itself. Instead of viewing fear as a signal to retreat, we can train ourselves to see it as a natural response to new challenges. This shift in mindset transforms fear into a catalyst for action rather than an immobilizing force. Setting tiny, manageable goals can also help ease the journey through fear. By taking small steps toward our larger ambitions, we create a pattern of success that slowly chips away at our fears. Finding a community or support system can further empower us as we share our fears and hear the stories of others who have navigated similar challenges. By empathizing with one another, we can foster resilience and encouragement that fuels personal growth, showing us that we are not alone in our struggles. Practical exercises can also enhance our ability to confront fear. Visualization techniques, for instance, allow us to imagine the outcome we desire, helping to reduce anxiety and instill confidence. Additionally, cultivating self-compassion can counteract the harsh judgments we often place on ourselves when making mistakes. By treating ourselves with kindness during these difficult moments, we create a safe space for growth, where learning and risk-taking become part of a healthy development process. Embracing these techniques opens up pathways to transformation, nudging us ever closer to our full potential as we learn to dance with fear instead of letting it dictate our lives. Embracing uncertainty, the key to freedom. Uncertainty often feels like an unwelcome guest in our lives, a shadow creeping in during moments when we seek stability and clarity. It's easy to understand why we fear uncertainty. It challenges our innate desire for control. Every time I faced the unknown, whether it was choosing a career path, starting a relationship, or simply making day-to-day decisions, I felt an unsettling wave of anxiety. This fear often stems from our thoughts, which tend to spiral into worst-case scenarios. We reason that if we can anticipate outcomes, we can safeguard ourselves from potential pain. Yet, the pursuit of certainty can be a double-edged sword, leading us into a stifling comfort zone that restricts our growth. Every moment spent clinging to what we know diminishes our capacity to explore new possibilities. During my own journey, I realized that embracing uncertainty can open doors we didn't even know existed. Building comfort with the unknown is not a skill we are born with. It involves practice and a shift in mindset. One technique I found particularly effective is reframing my thoughts around uncertainty from a threat to an opportunity. Instead of viewing a situation as unpredictable and risky, I started asking myself what I could learn from it. This simple shift transformed my approach. Instead of clinging to rigid plans, I began to view life's unpredictability as an adventure. Meditation also played a crucial role in this transition. Taking moments to breathe deeply and reflecting on my fears allowed me to detach from the chaotic thoughts racing in my mind. I learned to sit with the discomfort of not knowing and discovered the freedom in accepting that some things are beyond control. Practicing mindfulness not only calms the mind, but also sharpens our ability to stay present, further reducing the grip that fear has over us. Another powerful technique is incremental exposure to the unknown. It's about gently pushing our boundaries while celebrating each small step forward. I started by taking small risks, like trying new foods, speaking up in group settings, or changing my daily routine. Each minor act of courage slowly desensitized me to the discomfort of uncertainty. I learned that with every leap into the unknown, my confidence grew, enabling me to tackle larger challenges. Not only did this foster freedom and creativity, but it also enriched my life with new experiences and perspectives. Ultimately, the more we practice embracing uncertainty, the more we unlock our potential. Next time uncertainty creeps in, I encourage you to welcome it as a catalyst for growth and opportunities, rather than a wall to confine you. Remember, freedom often resides on the periphery of comfort. The key is to unlock it with courage and curiosity. Chapter 7. The Alchemy of Belief. Transforming fears into empowering beliefs. The journey of transforming disabling fears into strength-giving beliefs begins with self-awareness. I often found myself caught in a web of anxieties that overwhelmed my ability to think clearly. It can feel like your fears are a force beyond your control, paralyzing you and consuming your thoughts. Those fears whisper the worst-case scenarios, convincing you that stepping outside your comfort zone is a risk too great to take. However, I learned that the key to shifting this dynamic lies in recognizing that fear, while natural and instinctive, does not have to dictate my path. By confronting my fears, identifying their roots, and reframing the narrative I told myself about them, I unlocked a powerful resource within me. I realized that many fears stem from misconceptions or past experiences, while empowering beliefs sprout from knowledge, resilience, and trust in oneself. Acknowledging this distinction allowed me to dismantle the hold that fear had over my life, transforming it into a driving force for growth and courage. One practical exercise I found particularly helpful in reprogramming my beliefs around fear is journaling. I would take time to write down my fears without any filter. This included everything I was anxious about, from public speaking to starting a new job. Once the fears were laid out in black and white, I would challenge each one by asking myself questions like, what evidence do I have that this fear is valid? What would I tell a friend in the same situation? Gradually, I began to notice patterns and common themes among my fears. This awareness ignited my desire to reframe each fear into a statement of empowerment. For instance, instead of saying, I fear failure, I transformed it into, failure is a stepping stone to growth. Another effective strategy was visualizing the worst-case scenario and considering the best possible outcomes instead. This exercise illustrated that my fears were not insurmountable challenges, but rather obstacles on the path to achieving my goals. Transforming fear into empowered belief also requires action. Taking small, deliberate steps towards what I feared allowed me to build confidence gradually. Each time I faced a fear, I learned something new about my capabilities. It also became essential to surround myself with supportive individuals who encouraged my growth by sharing their own stories of overcoming fears. Hearing their experiences not only inspired me, but also reinforced the notion that vulnerability is a shared human experience. Everyone battles their own fears, and the act of sharing these struggles can be incredibly liberating. As I continued on this path, I discovered that empowering beliefs not only replaced my fears, but fortified my self-worth. Remember, the objective isn't to eradicate fear altogether, but to shift its influence from a hindrance to a motivator, creating room for growth, resilience, and a more fulfilling life. The science behind belief systems. Investigating the psychological underpinnings of belief formation reveals how our minds construct frameworks through which we interpret our experiences. Each belief we hold is influenced by countless factors including upbringing, culture, and personal experiences. For instance, when we encounter new information, our brain filters it through these pre-existing frameworks, adjusting our perceptions accordingly. This cognitive process is often automatic, making it easy to overlook how deeply rooted our beliefs are in our psyche. The psychological theories explain how we may cling to beliefs that serve our emotions, even in the face of contradictory evidence. This highlights the inherent bias in our thinking as we prioritize comfort and familiarity over the unsettling nature of uncertainty. As I pondered my own beliefs, I recognized patterns rooted in early childhood lessons, the influence of peer groups, and the media I consumed. These influences weave together, forming intricate tapestries that define who we are and how we perceive the world around us. Understanding how beliefs influence perception and behavior towards fear can be illuminating. Fear is a powerful emotion that can be shaped significantly by what we believe. For example, if we hold a belief that something is dangerous, our perception of that thing intensifies, often leading us to react with heightened anxiety or avoidance. It's fascinating to see how these established beliefs about fear can become self-fulfilling prophecies. I recall a time when my fear of public speaking stemmed from early critiques on my communication skills. Each time I had to speak, my belief in my inadequacy triggered physiological responses, sweaty palms, a racing heart, that reinforced my fears. This cycle of belief and behavior creates a formidable barrier, limiting people's potential and experiences. Realizing that our beliefs shape our reality empowers us to reconsider those that no longer serve us. Seeking to challenge our perceptions and nurturing adaptive beliefs can transform fear into motivation, thus expanding our horizons. By examining our belief systems through this lens of psychology, we can begin to unravel the grip that unfounded fears have on our lives. Exploring past experiences and questioning long-held beliefs may seem daunting, yet it is a crucial step in rewriting our narratives. Journaling our experiences or discussing them with others can reveal hidden patterns and foster a shift in perspective. It is through this process that we can start to cultivate a belief system rooted in understanding and adaptability, rather than fear. Embracing new insights and allowing ourselves the space to grow are vital in this endeavor. This journey might just lead to an awakening of possibilities previously overshadowed by fear. How beliefs shape our reality. Our core beliefs are like the lenses through which we perceive the world. These beliefs, often established in our early experiences, guide our thoughts, emotions, and actions, ultimately shaping our reality. For instance, if I believe that I am not deserving of success, this belief influences my daily decisions, making me less likely to pursue opportunities. The impact of these core beliefs is not always visible immediately. However, they manifest in patterns in our lives, dictating what we accept, who we interact with, and how we approach challenges. When reflecting on significant moments in my life, I can trace many outcomes back to these foundational beliefs. They create a narrative that can lead to a fulfilling life or keep one trapped in cycles of self-doubt and limitation. Shifting limiting beliefs into empowering narratives requires intentionality and effort. Begin by identifying the belief you wish to change. Ask yourself what evidence supports this belief and whether it serves your overall well-being. Replace self-defeating thoughts with affirmations that reflect a more positive and realistic perspective. For example, transforming "I am not good enough" into "I am capable and deserving of success" can flip the narrative entirely. Engaging in reflective practices, such as journaling or meditation, allows for deeper understanding and helps reinforce new empowering beliefs. Surrounding myself with supportive individuals who uplift and encourage can also bolster this transformation, as their perspectives can provide a different lens through which to view my abilities and potential. Developing awareness of how our beliefs shape our reality can be a profound journey. It not only improves our understanding of ourselves, but also allows us to create a more fulfilling and authentic life. A practical tip for anyone looking to initiate this transformation is to take a moment each day to challenge a single limiting belief. Acknowledge it, question its validity, and counter it with a positive affirmation. Over time, this consistent effort can lead to significant shifts in confidence and mindset. Chapter 8: Facing the Unknown. Strategies for Embracing Uncertainty. Identifying healthy coping strategies for dealing with uncertainty often begins with acknowledging the feelings that arise when faced with the unknown. It's not uncommon for fear and anxiety to creep in, but instead of resisting these emotions, I've learned the power of acceptance. Allowing myself to feel unsettled without pushing it away helps to diffuse its intensity. Engaging in mindfulness practices, such as meditation or deep breathing exercises, calms my mind and shelters me from overwhelming thoughts. Journaling is another powerful tool. By writing down my thoughts, I not only clarify my feelings, but also create a tangible connection to my inner world. This process helps me witness my uncertainties, turning an abstract fear into manageable pieces. As I explore healthy outlets, I often find that physical activity serves as a remarkable antidote. Whether it's taking a walk, dancing, or practicing yoga, movement brings me back to the present moment and helps to reset my emotional equilibrium. Techniques to foster adaptability and resilience in unknown situations require a proactive approach to learning and growth. Shifting my mindset to view challenges as opportunities instead of obstacles has transformed my interactions with uncertainty. I remind myself that flexibility is key. By welcoming change and being open to different outcomes, I create space for innovation and creativity. When I find myself in unfamiliar territory, I focus on what I can control and embrace the narrative of exploration rather than deficiency. Developing problem-solving skills becomes essential. I often break down daunting tasks into smaller, manageable steps. This incremental approach not only prevents overwhelm, but also builds my confidence as I celebrate small victories along the way. Engaging with supportive communities, whether they are friends, family, or online groups, provides a network of encouragement that reinforces my resolve. Sharing experiences and learning from others has shown me that I am not alone in my uncertainty. As I navigate through the complexities of life's unpredictable nature, I find comfort in reminding myself that resilience is built through practice. Each encounter with uncertainty becomes an opportunity for growth. When faced with a lack of clarity, assessing my previous experiences provides valuable insights. Reflecting on how I coped and adapted in the past allows me to draw parallels to present challenges. This observation instills a deeper confidence in my capacity to handle what lies ahead. Building a toolkit of coping strategies and resilience techniques prepares me for future uncertainties. Embracing uncertainty doesn't mean we become passive. Instead, we become active participants in our emotional journey. By maintaining a curious mindset and remaining engaged, we open doors to new possibilities and greater understanding. A practical tip I often carry with me is to approach uncertainty with a sense of adventure instead of dread, knowing that the journey through the unknown can lead to transformative experiences. The role of trust in overcoming fear. Trust plays a pivotal role in how we manage and respond to fear. At its core, self-trust is about believing in our capabilities and judgment, while external trust refers to our feelings toward other people, systems, and the world around us. When we trust ourselves, we know that we can navigate challenges, making it easier to confront fears head-on. The relationship we have with ourselves sets the tone for how we relate to others and how we engage with the world. I have often found that when my self-trust diminishes, fear creeps in, making even the smallest tasks seem daunting. Conversely, when I cultivate confidence in my decisions, I find that my fears diminish, transforming them into manageable challenges rather than overwhelming obstacles. This internal dialogue with oneself underscores how vital self-trust is in any journey of overcoming fear. Building trust, both within ourselves and with others, is a foundational step in facing life's uncertainties. We live in a world laden with unpredictability, and trust acts as an anchor amid the chaos. When we establish relationships based on trust, we create a safety net that allows us to take risks and step beyond our comfort zones. This is particularly true when we find ourselves in unfamiliar situations that evoke anxiety. By fostering trust in our relationships, we can sidestep fears that would otherwise paralyze us. It's in these moments of vulnerability, where trust is both given and received, that we discover strength and resilience. From my own experiences, I've learned that surrounding myself with trustworthy individuals not only eases my fears, but also provides me with a support system that encourages growth and exploration. Facing fear is not a passive act. It requires intentional effort and a commitment to cultivating trust. Whether it's through daily affirmations to bolster self-belief or nurturing connections with those who inspire confidence, every action taken towards building trust is a step towards overcoming fear. A practical tip that I often employ is to reflect on past experiences where trust played a crucial role in overcoming challenges. This reflection reinforces my belief in both self-trust and external trust, reminding me that I have navigated through difficulties before and can do so again. By prioritizing and fostering trust in my life, I find myself increasingly equipped to face fears that arise, transforming anxiety into an opportunity for growth. Techniques for building confidence in the unknown. Building confidence in the unknown starts with practical steps that allow us to face uncertainty head-on. One effective technique is to break down daunting tasks into smaller, manageable parts. When confronting a new situation, rather than viewing it as a whole, I find immense value in identifying specific elements within it. This could be as simple as preparing for a job interview by researching the company and practicing possible questions, rather than becoming overwhelmed by the prospect of the entire event. Each small step taken builds a sense of accomplishment, reinforcing the belief that I can handle whatever comes my way. Additionally, creating a routine around these steps fosters familiarity and predictability, which can greatly reduce anxiety. Emphasizing self-compassion throughout this process becomes crucial. I remind myself that everyone experiences uncertainty, and it is perfectly okay to step outside my comfort zone. Visualization serves as another powerful tool in cultivating courage amidst the unknown. In my experiences, vividly imagining the scenarios I face, such as public speaking or embarking on a new project, helps to diminish fear. I can picture myself successfully navigating these situations, sensing the energy of the audience, or feeling the satisfaction of completing a challenging task. The brain can hardly distinguish between real experiences and vivid imagination, so practicing these mental exercises provides a psychological edge. Additionally, gradual exposure to the unknown fosters resilience. I often push my boundaries by arranging speaking events or trying new activities deliberately. Each small exposure erodes doubt, replacing it with an empowering sense of capability. Over time, I learned that the more I faced uncertainty, the less intimidating it became. In navigating uncertainty, it is essential to cultivate a mindset that embraces change rather than views it as a threat. A valuable practical tip is to keep a journal to track my feelings and thoughts about upcoming unknown situations. Writing down my apprehensions allows for clearer reflection and helps identify patterns in my fears. Once I see these in writing, I can challenge their validity and plan how to address them. This practice reinforces self-awareness, guiding me in reframing my perspective on the unknown as an opportunity for growth instead of a burden. Each time I write and reflect, I strengthen not only my insights but also my confidence to step boldly into the future. Chapter 9. The Journey of Self-Discovery. Recognizing Fear as a Guide. Understanding fear's role as an indicator of deeper desires and values is crucial for personal growth. Fear often surfaces when we are on the brink of change, signaling that something significant is at stake. When I reflect on my own experiences, I notice that moments of fear coincided with my pursuit of dreams that meant a lot to me. This underlying fear often pointed to my true values. For instance, the fear of public speaking wasn't merely a fear of judgment. It highlighted my desire for connection and the importance I placed on sharing my thoughts. By acknowledging this connection, I began to view fear not just as a nuisance, but as a telltale sign of what truly mattered to me. Learning to interpret fear as a guiding signal rather than an obstacle requires a shift in perspective. I've found that when I face fear directly, instead of avoiding it, a pathway opens up that leads to growth. Rather than letting fear paralyze me, I started to ask what it was trying to communicate. Sometimes, this meant confronting uncomfortable truths about myself or my situation. For example, the fear of taking a new job was not solely about the transition itself. It was also about my desire for a more fulfilling career. Embracing this insight transformed my apprehension into motivation. I began to see fear not as a stumbling block, but as a compass, guiding me towards my true aspirations. Recognizing fear in this way can empower us to act instead of retreating into our comfort zones. One valuable practical tip is to take a moment when you feel fearful to identify the underlying value or desire. Ask yourself what you really want in that moment and how the fear is helping to point you in that direction. By creating this dialogue with yourself, you transform fear from a foe into an ally, one that illuminates the path to your authentic self. The path to authenticity, discovering your true self. Fear often creeps into our lives, shaping how we see ourselves and how we interact with the world. It whispers the doubts that keep us from embracing our true selves. On this personal quest to authenticity, I realized that fear doesn't just hinder us. It can be a guide, pointing out where we need to grow. Every time I faced a fear, I would find an opportunity to uncover a piece of my true self. The fear of judgment, failure, or even success masked deeper insecurities that had formed over the years. Recognizing this connection between fear and authenticity opened my eyes to the way I was living. Instead of avoiding fear, I began to lean into it. It became apparent that when I embraced my fears, I unveiled aspects of my identity that were previously hidden beneath layers of societal expectations and self-doubt. To align my actions with my inner values and beliefs, I began experimenting with a series of creative exercises that allowed me to express my true self. One exercise involved journaling about moments when I felt most alive and connected to my core values. I wrote without restrictions, letting thoughts spill onto the page. This not only helped clarify my values, but also highlighted discrepancies between what I believed and how I acted. Another powerful exercise was to create vision boards, a visual representation of my dreams and beliefs, which served as constant reminders of what I truly wanted. I started engaging in activities that brought me joy and fulfillment, such as painting, hiking, or volunteering. Each action served as a reminder that authenticity is not just a destination but a journey. Through these experiences, I discovered that living authentically means aligning my daily choices with what truly resonates within me. Ultimately, the path to authenticity requires a commitment to self-discovery. Everyone carries the intricate puzzle pieces of their identity, and the journey involves recognizing and assembling them piece by piece. Surrounding myself with supportive people who encouraged vulnerability was crucial, as was practicing self-compassion when I stumbled. A practical tip is to take a few moments each day to reflect on the choices you made that aligned with your values and those that didn't. This simple practice of reflection can illuminate patterns in your behavior that either contribute to or detract from your authenticity. Lessons from self-discovery: moving beyond fear. Self-discovery is a profound journey that often requires stepping into uncomfortable spaces. I've learned that gathering insights from self-exploration begins with a simple act: being honest with myself. When I sit in silence or write in my journal, I start to confront the fears that have held me back. These fears are often cloaked in uncertainty, and I realize that many of them stem from past experiences that have shaped my beliefs. Identifying these moments helps me understand the origins of my fears, allowing me to address them head-on. As I explore my thoughts and emotions, I find that questioning my limiting beliefs opens a door to new possibilities. I remember a time when I hesitated to pursue a career change because I believed I wasn't talented enough. It was through deep reflection that I recognized this belief was merely a projection of my insecurities. Acknowledging this gave me the power to challenge it. Each time I uncover a layer of understanding about myself, I strip away the fear that once seemed impenetrable. This process is both liberating and daunting as I learn to embrace vulnerability, which ultimately leads me closer to authenticity. Embracing newfound freedom is akin to shedding a weight that had long been carried. As I embark on this journey, I celebrate my growth through small but significant rituals. For instance, I create a gratitude practice where I list things I've achieved, no matter how minor they may seem. This not only reinforces positive self-perception, but also allows me to recognize my progress in confronting fears. There's power in acknowledging where I've been and how far I've come. Celebration, for me, takes various forms, from treating myself to a special experience or sharing my journey with friends who support me. Moreover, embracing newfound freedom means surrounding myself with positivity and inspiration. I seek narratives of other people who have conquered their fears. Reading their stories serves as a reminder that growth is universal and that the discomfort I feel is a part of the human experience. I learn to observe the small victories and weave them into the fabric of my daily life, iterating the belief that every step forward counts. Just as importantly, I give myself permission to fail and to understand that setbacks are not a reflection of my worth, but a part of the learning curve. The journey doesn't end with recognition. It continues as I face each day with a sense of curiosity and courage that fuels my spirit. Consider starting your own gratitude practice. Write down 3 things you have achieved every day, no matter how small. This simple act can profoundly alter your perception of progress and help you cultivate a resilient mindset that will empower you to move past fear. Chapter 10: Relationships and Fear. How fear affects our connections with others. Fear has a way of weaving itself into the fabric of our relationships, often creating invisible barriers that can be hard to recognize. When we feel afraid, whether it's fear of rejection, fear of conflict, or fear of vulnerability, our instinct may be to build walls around ourselves. I have experienced moments where anxiety about sharing my true thoughts prevented me from connecting authentically with those I care about. This fear can manifest in various ways, such as avoiding difficult conversations, withdrawing from intimacy, or being overly defensive. The irony is that these behaviors often push others away, intensifying our sense of isolation and reinforcing the fear we were trying to escape in the first place. I've noticed that fear can act like a filter, modifying how we interpret others' actions and words. Once fear takes hold, it's easy to misread gestures as signs of disapproval or apathy, which further entrenches the barriers we construct around ourselves. Understanding how to navigate and communicate these fears is crucial for building stronger connections. One of the first steps I've found to be effective is acknowledging my own fears and understanding their origins. This self-awareness creates a foundation for open conversations, allowing me to express my fears without the weight of shame or judgment. When I approach discussions about fear honestly, I often find that others feel encouraged to share their own insecurities. It's about creating a safe space where vulnerability is met with compassion rather than criticism. Communicating fear might feel daunting, but I've learned that being vulnerable can deepen relationships considerably. By sharing how certain experiences provoke fear within me, I invite others to respond with empathy, turning a potentially divisive topic into an opportunity for intimacy and connection. Fear will always be a part of our emotional landscape, but it doesn't need to define our relationships. I find it helpful to practice active listening when someone shares their fears with me. Instead of jumping to solutions or dismissals, I try to listen deeply and affirm their feelings. This not only validates their experience, but often diffuses the intensity of fear itself. As we cultivate these habits, we turn fear into a bridge rather than a barrier, navigating through our discomfort to forge deeper, more meaningful connections with others. A practical tip that I've embraced is to schedule regular check-ins with those close to me, openly inviting discussions about any fears or frustrations. This proactive approach fosters trust and reinforces our bonds, helping us face fear together rather than allowing it to isolate us. Building trust and overcoming fear in relationships. Building trust often starts with small, consistent actions that demonstrate reliability. When I think back to my own experiences, I realize that trust is not built overnight. It requires a foundation of open communication, honesty, and mutual respect. Someone can say they trust you, but their actions must reflect that sentiment. One powerful strategy is to engage in active listening. It's not just about hearing words, but understanding the emotions behind them. I remember a moment in a conversation where my partner expressed a fear about our future. Instead of dismissing their concern, I listened intently, validating their feelings and reassuring them that we could navigate our uncertainties together. This taught me that acknowledging fears helps dismantle the barriers they create. Additionally, being vulnerable doesn't make us weak. It makes the relationship stronger. When we share our own insecurities and fears, it opens the door for deeper honesty and connection. The more we reveal our true selves, the more trust we can cultivate, which in turn alleviates fear. Empathy plays a crucial role in bridging the gaps that fear can create. When I choose to see things from another person's perspective, I'm more equipped to respond compassionately, which fosters an emotional safe space. I remember an instance where a close friend was going through a tumultuous time. Instead of offering advice right away, I asked them to share their story while I listened without judgment. This allowed them to express their fears and frustrations, creating a moment of vulnerability that deepened our bond. Vulnerability, while intimidating, is a great equalizer in relationships. By being open about my own struggles, I have often found that others feel encouraged to do the same. This exchange not only brings us closer, but also helps dismantle the fear of being judged or misunderstood. It's essential to hold space for our loved ones, allowing them to feel seen and heard, which becomes a pathway for healing and connection. In navigating relationships, considering the impact of our words is essential. Each conversation is an opportunity to build or erode trust, so choosing kindness and authenticity can foster a nurturing environment where fear has less power. It's valuable to regularly check in with those we care about, not just to talk about heavy topics, but to celebrate small victories together. This ongoing connection reinforces our bonds and cultivates an atmosphere where trust can flourish. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate fear completely. Rather, it's about developing the tools to face it together. The next time you feel uncertainty in a relationship, try taking a step back, embracing vulnerability, and employing empathetic communication. It can bridge gaps and fortify trust, leading to richer and more fulfilling connections. The role of support systems in fear management. Fear can often feel like an insurmountable barrier, isolating us and amplifying our anxieties. In my own experiences, I've discovered how essential it is to have a supportive network when facing fear. This network can take many forms, from friends and family to therapists or support groups. They provide a safe haven where we can articulate our fears without judgment and receive empathy and understanding in return. Through sharing our struggles, we can often find that we are not alone in our battles, and this realization can be liberating. The encouragement from others can motivate us to confront our fears head-on rather than letting them control our lives. Moreover, support systems can offer practical advice, share coping strategies, and even help us see the situation from a new perspective, turning fear into a catalyst for personal growth. Nurturing and expanding my own support system has proven to be a powerful tool for enhancing my emotional health. It starts with reaching out, creating open lines of communication, and being proactive in forging connections. I've learned that vulnerability is a strength in these relationships. When I express my fears, it encourages others to do the same. Volunteering for community events or joining clubs aligned with my interests have opened new avenues to meet diverse people who can enrich my support network. Additionally, I've found it helpful to regularly check in with my current supporters, friends and family, through simple gestures like a text or a coffee chat. These small actions reinforce our bonds and cultivate a sense of mutual support that is invaluable in hard times. I also place importance on fostering relationships with individuals who challenge and inspire me, as this can provide fresh insights and approaches to fear management. Ultimately, cultivating a robust support system can make a significant difference in handling fear. It's about building a community where we can thrive together, learn from each other, and face challenges collaboratively. Remember, emotional health is not about avoiding fear, but learning how to navigate it with the help of others. One practical tip is to take the first step by reaching out to someone you trust today. Share something that frightens you, and watch how the burden lightens as you open up to support. Chapter 11. Fear and Creativity. Harnessing fear as a creative force. Fear often presents itself as a formidable barrier, casting a shadow over our creative endeavors. With each idea we want to express, or each project we dream to embark upon, fear whispers the unsettling tale of failure. I have encountered this paradox many times. While fear can paralyze us, it can also ignite a spark within. It stirs emotional depths that might otherwise remain untouched, urging us to explore, express, and innovate. Understanding this duality has transformed my perspective on fear. Instead of viewing it solely as an adversary, I began to appreciate its potential as a powerful catalyst for creativity. The very emotion that holds us back can also be the force that propels us forward, leading us to unexpected insights and novel expressions. To channel fear into creative expression, we must first acknowledge it. Accepting fear rather than avoiding it opens the door to exploration. One effective strategy is to reframe fear from a negative to a neutral or even positive experience. Rather than allowing it to dominate our thoughts, we can let it guide our creative process. When I feel the familiar pang of fear creeping in, I pause and analyze what is triggering it. This introspection often reveals underlying desires or unmet needs, which can be woven into my creative work. Another strategy involves setting smaller, manageable goals. By breaking projects into bite-sized pieces, the overwhelming cloud of fear dissipates. Each completed step builds confidence and transforms the initial fright into a fuel that drives imagination forward. Furthermore, creating a supportive environment can accelerate our ability to harness fear. Surrounding ourselves with encouraging friends, mentors, or even fellow creatives fosters a sense of safety. In this space, we can share our fears without judgment, allowing for collective brainstorming that can elevate our ideas. Practicing mindfulness and staying present can also help us not be consumed by anxious thoughts about the future. Every time I catch myself spiraling into what-ifs, I redirect my focus to the process of creation itself. By prioritizing the act of making over the result, fear transforms from a debilitating force into a wellspring of innovative potential. Embracing fear in this way not only enriches our creative output, but also empowers us to innovate beyond our perceived limits. When I remind myself that every artist has wrestled with fear, it becomes easier to see it as a shared experience rather than an isolating challenge. Next time fear threatens to hold you back, consider it an invitation to delve deeper into your creativity. Think of fear as a sign that you are on the brink of something significant. Embrace it, analyze it, and let it guide your creative expressions. In doing so, you will discover that fear does not have to be a roadblock. It can serve as a constructive force, driving you toward innovative and authentic expressions of your unique voice. Overcoming fear of failure in artistic expression. Fear of failure is a common hurdle that stifles many creative individuals. This fear often manifests in various forms, from anxiety about how our work will be perceived to an overwhelming pressure to meet external expectations. We might worry about not being good enough or fear the judgment of our peers and audiences. These thoughts can create a paralyzing cycle that prevents us from exploring our ideas freely. For instance, when I start a new piece of art, the nagging voice in my head sometimes tells me that what I create will never live up to what I envision, or worse, that it will fall flat in the eyes of others. Recognizing these fears is the first step toward liberating our creative spirits. By acknowledging that everyone shares these feelings to some degree, we can begin to understand that fear does not have to define our artistic journey. Embracing creativity requires us to shift our mindset and actively challenge the fear of failure. One powerful technique is to reframe our understanding of success. Instead of focusing solely on the end result, we can learn to appreciate the process itself. For example, when I create something new, I try to immerse myself in the joy of experimentation rather than fixating on whether it meets a specific standard. This mindset allows for mistakes to be viewed as valuable lessons rather than failures. Additionally, setting small, achievable goals can help build confidence over time. Celebrating these small victories encourages a sense of accomplishment that diminishes the grip of fear. Practicing mindfulness and grounding techniques can also aid in centering ourselves when the anxiety starts to creep in, providing a calm space to express creativity without the burden of self-doubt. Taking risks in our creative pursuits can be incredibly liberating. Each time we confront the fear of failure, we have the opportunity to grow and expand our artistic boundaries. Creating a supportive environment, whether with friends, a community, or through social media, can further diminish the fear. Knowing that we have others who appreciate our vulnerability and are willing to share in our artistic journey can inspire us to push past our limits. It's essential to remember that every artist has, at one time or another, grappled with fear. By embracing it and viewing it as a natural part of the creative process, we allow ourselves to move forward with a newfound freedom. Start by committing to create just for the sake of creating, liberating your art from the constraints of judgment. With each stroke, note, or word, focus on the joy of expression rather than the fear of imperfection. The dance between fear and innovation. Fear often tightly grips our minds, especially when we face the unknown territory of innovation. It whispers doubts and raises questions, leading to a paralysis that inhibits creativity. This fear can stem from many sources: the anxiety of failure, the risk of judgment from others, or even the uncertainty of stepping outside our comfort zones. Yet, upon closer examination, fear and innovation share a complex, interdependent relationship. Fear can motivate careful consideration and thorough preparation, urging us to explore possibilities more deeply. However, it can also stifle our instincts, overshadowing our capacity to dream big. By acknowledging fear as a natural part of the creative process, we can learn to embrace it, allowing it to guide rather than hinder our innovative efforts. In facing fear, we must find a delicate balance, appreciating its protective instincts while pushing against its constraints to unleash our full creative potential. Encouraging experimentation is crucial in navigating this intricate dance. When we foster an environment where risk-taking is seen as a pathway to learning, we shift our perspective on failure. Instead of viewing mistakes as setbacks, they become opportunities for growth and discovery. This mindset allows us to develop ideas with a sense of freedom and curiosity. Experimentation doesn't always have to be grand or groundbreaking. It can be as simple as trying out a new approach in our daily routines or brainstorming sessions. When we dare to innovate and allow ourselves to make mistakes, we cultivate a culture rich with creative energy. This type of environment nurtures originality, where the wildest ideas can surface without the fear of immediate judgment. By taking those initial small steps into experimentation, we pave the way for larger leaps into innovative territory. Ultimately, the key to thriving in this delicate dance is to understand that fear and innovation coexist and can promote each other. Embracing fear while actively pursuing creative risks fosters resilience and adaptability. Allow fear to be a companion on your journey rather than a foe. Take your first steps into the unknown with the knowledge that it's perfectly okay to feel afraid. By cultivating a habit of experimentation and embracing the lessons learned from failure, you will find that innovation becomes not only possible, but also exhilarating. So allow yourself to dream, to explore, and to innovate. Remember, every great innovation is just one brave step beyond fear. Chapter 12: Spirituality and Fear. Fear in the context of spiritual growth. Fear is often seen as a hindrance, something that constrains us and limits our potential. Yet, in spiritual growth, fear can transform into a powerful catalyst for awakening. When I reflect on my own journey, I realize that the moments I faced my deepest fears often preceded my most profound insights. It was in those instances of fear that I was compelled to examine my beliefs, my values, and my understanding of the world. Fear has a unique way of shaking the foundations of our comfort zones, stirring a desire for deeper meaning and connection to something greater than ourselves. Every tremor of anxiety can prompt us to ask critical questions. What am I truly afraid of? Why does this fear hold power over me? By confronting these fears, we often discover that they are reflections of our internal conflicts or unresolved issues. Embracing fear, rather than avoiding it, opens the door to spiritual transformation. It challenges us to grow, to reevaluate our perspectives, and to embark on a journey towards self-discovery. Navigating fear through spiritual practices can provide us with the tools we need to face life's uncertainties. Techniques such as meditation, mindfulness, and prayer have the power to shift our focus from the fear itself to a broader awareness of our thoughts and emotions. During meditation, I learned to observe fear as it arose, recognizing it as an integral part of my human experience rather than an enemy to be vanquished. Mindfulness helps create a space between myself and the fear, allowing me to process my reactions without being overwhelmed. Engaging in spiritual beliefs, such as connecting to a higher power or embracing the idea that everything happens for a reason, can also reinforce our capacity to endure fear. These beliefs anchor us, reminding us of the greater tapestry of life where every thread, every experience has its place. Through these practices, we find a sense of peace even in the face of fear, cultivating resilience as we journey through the unpredictable paths of spiritual growth. When fear arises, it's crucial to remember that it holds the potential for personal transformation. The next time you face a challenge that evokes fear, consider it an invitation to grow. Embrace the discomfort and reflect on what it reveals about your inner world. Allow yourself to feel the fear, but also challenge its narrative. Ask yourself if this fear is rooted in reality or if it stems from projections based on past experiences. A practical tip for navigating fear is to journal your feelings. Write down what scares you, and then explore the underlying beliefs attached to those fears. This practice not only brings clarity, but also empowers you to take actionable steps toward overcoming the barriers they create. Ultimately, fear becomes not just an obstacle, but a guide on your journey towards spiritual awakening. Exploring the intersection of fear and faith. Fear can often feel like an overpowering force. It creeps in when we least expect it, surfacing in unexpected ways and consuming our thoughts. In times of uncertainty, faith serves as a powerful antidote. It isn't merely the belief in something greater than ourselves. It's a deep-rooted sense of trust that can anchor us amidst the chaos. When I find myself gripped by fear, whether concerning personal challenges or broader societal issues, tapping into my faith can transform my perspective. Faith can remind us that we aren't alone, that even in our darkest moments, a glimmer of hope exists. This inner strength fosters resilience, allowing us to confront fears rather than avoid them. By actively engaging with faith, we can shift our focus away from anxiety toward a mentality of growth and courage. Rather than letting fear dictate our actions, faith encourages us to step forward with confidence, reminding us of our capabilities and the support available to us. In addition to personal faith, spiritual communities play a vital role in addressing collective fears. In moments of crisis, such as natural disasters or societal unrest, these communities provide a sanctuary where individuals can gather, share their experiences, and support one another. The sense of belonging fostered within a community can help alleviate feelings of isolation, often heightened by fear. Engaging in collective rituals, prayers, or discussions allows for cathartic release and collective healing. Together, we can confront fears that feel insurmountable when faced alone. This shared experience not only strengthens our faith, but also reinforces our resilience as a community. It's remarkable how, when individuals unite in shared beliefs and values, the weight of fear becomes lighter. Spiritual communities, therefore, offer a refuge to those grappling with fear, transforming it into a collective source of strength. Understanding the relationship between fear and faith highlights an essential truth. Fear is a natural part of the human experience, but it does not have to define us. By nurturing our faith and actively engaging with spiritual communities, we can find ways to cope, heal, and emerge stronger from our fears. A practical approach is to regularly connect with those who share similar beliefs and values. Whether through attending gatherings, participating in discussions, or simply reaching out to fellow members, These actions can help cultivate a supportive environment. Building this network allows for open dialogue about fears, providing both comfort and strategies to address them. The act of sharing experiences not only diminishes the semblance of solitude and fear, but also empowers us with the collective strength to navigate through life's uncertainties. Finding meaning in fear, a spiritual perspective. Fear often feels like a shadow that looms over us, threatening our peace and pushing us into corners where we feel trapped. However, within that unsettling emotion lies a profound opportunity for growth and passion. Exploring fear teaches us valuable lessons about ourselves and helps us discover our true purpose. Each fear we encounter, whether it's related to failure, intimacy, or simply the unknown, acts as a mirror that reflects our deepest values and desires. For instance, the fear of failure can highlight our aspirations for success and identity. It nudges us towards what we truly want to achieve, inviting us to confront our limitations and aspirations alike. Rather than viewing fear as an enemy, adopting a perspective that sees it as a stepping stone can transform our approach to life's challenges. Redefining fear as a vehicle for growth requires a shift in mindset, and there are practical techniques that facilitate this change. One method is to practice mindfulness and meditation, which allows us to observe our fears without judgment. When we sit quietly and acknowledge our fears, we can understand their roots, and naming them can disarm their power. Visualizing our fears can also be helpful. By imagining the worst-case scenario, we often find that our fears are exaggerated and unrealistic. Journaling is another powerful tool. Writing about our fears not only clarifies our feelings, but also reveals patterns and underlying thoughts we might not have recognized before. By capturing our fears on paper, we take them from the shadows and bring light to them, paving the way for insights and new solutions. Embracing fear does not mean we eliminate it. Rather, we learn to dance with it. Start by allowing yourself to feel afraid without rushing to push it away. In those moments of discomfort, courage reveals itself, showing us that fear can coexist with bravery. As we adopt this mindset, we cultivate resilience. Practicing small acts of courage regularly helps demystify fear itself. Each small victory builds confidence and empowers us to tackle larger challenges. Fear can be a guide, illuminating paths we may not have chosen and helping us align with our highest self. Understanding that fear can serve a purpose ultimately enriches our lives in ways we never imagined. Remember, the next time fear knocks at your door, invite it in for a moment. There's likely wisdom waiting to be discovered. Chapter 13. Fear across different life stages. Childhood fears and their lasting impact. Childhood fears are surprisingly common and can impact us in ways we might not initially recognize. As a child, I remember being terrified of the dark, convinced that monsters lurked in the shadows. This is a shared experience. Many children develop attachments to familiar objects or places, understanding them as safe havens against their fears. These fears often stem from our inability to comprehend the world around us. Psychologically, these fears can represent our struggle for control. When we fear the dark, we fear the unknown, the things we cannot see or understand. This idea of the unknown, whether it takes shape as a monster in the closet or a growling thunderstorm outside, can leave a profound impression that lingers beyond childhood. It's fascinating to delve into these fears and observe how they manifest in our adult lives. For some, a fear of abandonment in childhood can evolve into insecurity in relationships as adults. An intense fear of failure may transform into chronic perfectionism or an ongoing struggle with self-doubt. As I navigated adulthood, I found traces of my childhood fears in my decision-making. I often hesitated to take risks, haunted by the notion that any misstep could lead to disaster. It's almost as if I was trapped in a maze of memories, each turn dictated by those early experiences. Understanding these transitions sheds light on our behaviors today, encouraging us to confront and analyze the roots of our fears. Acknowledging and addressing childhood fears is essential to breaking free from their influence. Engaging in reflective practices, such as journaling about past experiences, can help us draw connections between our childhood fears and present behaviors. We can begin to unearth patterns that inform our current relationships and decision-making. Instead of dismissing or burying these fears, we can choose to face them head-on, reinterpreting those initial experiences as stepping stones toward growth. By exploring these fears, we regain agency over our lives, allowing healing and resilience to flourish, ultimately shaping a healthier narrative for our future. The fear of aging, myths and realities. Aging often carries with it a heavy baggage filled with myths that paint a grim picture of getting older. We hear phrases like "you're only as old as you feel," which implies that age is merely a number, while simultaneously facing an avalanche of ads promising anti-aging miracles. These myths can incite fear and anxiety, suggesting that aging equates to a decline in vitality, health, and overall worth. The reality, however, is far more nuanced and liberating. Not all aging is associated with decline. In fact, many aspects of life improve with age. Cognitive and emotional maturity brings a richer, more nuanced perspective on life, as well as deeper relationships. Studies reveal that older adults often report higher levels of happiness and satisfaction, dispelling the myth that aging is synonymous with unhappiness. Recognizing these truths can transform the narrative we hold about aging. Promoting empowerment in the context of aging involves shifting our focus from what we lose to what we gain. Each wrinkle tells a story, and every gray hair symbolizes wisdom accumulated over time. Embracing aging means taking control of our narrative and redefining what it means to grow older. Instead of fearing the inevitable changes, we can learn to celebrate our journey. Engage in activities that ignite passion, pursue lifelong learning, and embrace social connections, as these elements enhance our well-being. Age should not be viewed as a limitation, but as an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. By fostering a positive perspective on aging, we empower ourselves and those around us, challenging the stereotypes that too often dominate our perceptions. Recognizing the myths versus the realities of aging can motivate us to live fully and authentically, regardless of our age. Cultivate a mindset that embraces change, and take active steps to maintain not just physical health, but also emotional and mental well-being. Celebrate your age as a testament to your resilience and experiences, and remind yourself that every day is an opportunity to learn and grow. Instead of fearing the passage of time, focus on enriching your life with meaningful experiences that add depth to your journey. Fear in crisis, navigating life transitions. Fear often lurks in the shadows during significant life transitions, amplifying our insecurities and doubts. Whether it's moving to a new city, starting a new job, or experiencing a personal loss, fear can be a visceral companion in these moments of change. I've felt it myself, the tight knot in my stomach when I faced a big life decision, unsure if I was on the right path. Recognizing fear as a natural reaction to uncertainty is the first step in learning how to manage it. It's essential to understand that fear often arises from our need for security and familiarity. When we confront the unknown, our instinct is to retreat to safer grounds. Thinking back on my life, I realized how fear manifested as both a warning signal and a red flag that prompted me to take stock of my situation. However, if left unchecked, that same fear can become paralyzing, keeping us from moving forward. By identifying the role fear plays, we can begin to dissect it, distinguishing between rational caution and irrational terror. Embracing change requires a shift in perspective, transforming fear into a powerful ally rather than a daunting enemy. There are techniques I've learned to navigate crises with confidence. One effective method is reframing the narrative around change. Instead of viewing transitions as threats, I try to see them as opportunities for growth and learning. This shift can be subtle but profound. Visualization is another useful technique. Picturing myself successfully navigating a new situation helps reduce anxiety. Grounding exercises, like deep breathing or taking a walk, can help bring clarity amid chaos, allowing me to reclaim a sense of stability. Additionally, I've found that seeking support from friends, family, or mentors can provide a much-needed sounding board. Sharing my fears often lightens the load and reveals new insights I hadn't considered. Remember, it's okay to invest time in understanding your feelings during transitions. Each change is a journey, and facilitating that journey with courage and self-compassion is key. Chapter 14: The Power of Vulnerability. Embracing vulnerability to break free from fear. Vulnerability is often perceived as a weakness, a state to be avoided at all costs. However, I have come to recognize vulnerability as a profound strength. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open the door to authenticity and genuine connection. Acknowledging our fears and insecurities takes courage. Yet this act of stepping into the light of our own truths seems to erode the power that fear holds over us. It's in these moments of vulnerability that we find the opportunity for growth and healing. By embracing our vulnerabilities, we begin to see that fear is simply a natural human response. It can serve as a signal, guiding us toward valuable insights about ourselves. Instead of allowing fear to immobilize us, vulnerability encourages us to lean into it. It teaches us that we are not alone in our struggles. We share our experiences with others who feel similarly. This collective understanding can create strong bonds and foster a supportive environment where we can all thrive. Embracing vulnerability begins with small, intentional steps. One of the most powerful practices is to acknowledge and name our fears. By bringing them into the open, we lessen their grip on us. Sharing these fears with a trusted friend or writing them down can serve as significant first steps toward acceptance. This act of expressing our inner fears can often illuminate the path to courage, allowing us to confront what holds us back. Another effective way to invite vulnerability into our lives is to challenge the narratives we hold about ourselves. Many of us have internalized beliefs that we must be perfect or invulnerable. Questioning these beliefs can expose their flaws and create room for a more compassionate self-view. Engaging in creative outlets, like writing or art, can also serve as a means of expression, where we can safely share our authentic selves. Lastly, practicing active listening and empathy with others not only builds our connections, but also creates a space where vulnerability becomes normalized. Real change often starts with a single act of bravery, and with each step we take, we find that embracing vulnerability liberates us from the chains of fear. One useful tip to carry forward is to set aside a few moments each day for reflection. Consider journaling about your fears and how they impact your life. This practice not only qualifies you to respond to fear with vulnerability, but also allows you to track your personal growth over time. By integrating this habit into your daily routine, you transform vulnerability from a daunting task into a natural and productive part of your life. Learning from discomfort, growth through vulnerability. Discomfort often feels like an unwelcome guest. It stirs up fear and uncertainty, lurking in moments of change or challenge. Yet, it is precisely in these moments of discomfort that transformative growth experiences can unfold. I've come to realize that discomfort signals an opportunity to push past my limits and discover new aspects of myself. When I find myself facing a situation that makes me uneasy, it often hints at an area where I can learn and evolve. Embracing this discomfort allows me to confront my fears head-on instead of burying them. For instance, when presenting in front of a crowd, my palms may sweat and my heart races. Still, each time I choose to stand up and speak, I unlock a deeper resilience within myself. This process has shown me that every moment of discomfort is a stepping stone towards personal growth, one that I should not shy away from but rather engage with wholeheartedly. During these vulnerable moments, self-compassion becomes my anchor. Recognizing that vulnerability is a fundamental part of being human helps me to soften the inner critic that often emerges. Instead of berating myself for feeling uneasy, I practice kindness toward myself. I remind myself that it is perfectly normal to feel anxious or insecure in unfamiliar situations. This self-compassion transforms my experience from one of judgment to one of understanding. I treat myself as I would treat a friend, offering support and encouragement. Engaging in positive self-talk, I acknowledge my efforts and honor my feelings without judgment. During these times, I find it helpful to breathe deeply and affirm my worth, reinforcing that it's okay to be imperfect and to experience discomfort. This approach not only eases the weight of vulnerability, but also fosters a gentle space where growth can truly begin to flourish. Growth through discomfort doesn't require grand gestures or heroic feats. Sometimes, it's found in the quiet acceptance of our own humanity. In times of stress or vulnerability, I've learned the value of small practices like journaling to reflect on my feelings, engaging in mindfulness to ground myself, or speaking to someone I trust. Each of these actions further equips me to embrace discomfort and step into my potential. A powerful tip is to regularly check in with yourself when discomfort arises. Ask, what is this feeling trying to teach me? This question transforms discomfort from a block into a guide, illuminating pathways of self-discovery and growth that I may have otherwise overlooked. The strength found in authenticity. Experiencing fear is a universal human condition, an emotion that can creep into the most confident of our hearts. I've often found that the key to overcoming this fear resides in the power of authenticity. Authenticity requires us to embrace who we are at our core, to strip away the masks we wear in daily life. In moments of fear, tapping into our genuine selves can serve as a profound source of strength. When I reflect on times when I felt overwhelmed, it was my ability to remain true to my values and beliefs that grounded me. This connection between authenticity and personal power becomes particularly evident when I face adversity. Instead of cowering in the face of uncertainty, I've discovered that acknowledging my true self allows me to navigate challenges with courage and clarity. Each time I choose authenticity, I reclaim my power, transforming fear from a paralyzing force into a springboard for growth. Cultivating authenticity in our lives is not merely a desirable trait, it's essential for our well-being. I've learned that this journey begins with self-reflection. Taking time to tune into my thoughts, emotions, and desires helps me distinguish between what I genuinely want and what others expect from me. Engaging in this practice has often revealed hidden strengths and reaffirmed my values. Incorporating small rituals into my daily routine has also bolstered this process. Whether it's journaling, meditating, or simply allowing myself moments of quiet introspection, these practices remind me to celebrate my uniqueness. Surrounding myself with supportive individuals who encourage my true self has also made a world of difference. I've found that the more I embrace authenticity, the more my self-esteem blossoms, leading to a healthier state of mind. This foundational aspect of my well-being cultivates resilience, enabling me to withstand life's storms with grace. Authenticity is not a destination, it's a continuous path we walk. Each moment offers us the chance to reflect, assess, and align with our true selves. By committing to this journey, we build an intrinsic strength that can be our guiding light through fear and uncertainty. It's important to recognize that this quest is not without its challenges. There will be times when the world pushes against our authenticity, testing our resolve. But each time we hold firm, we reinforce our personal power. A practical tip I often remind myself of is to sprinkle authenticity into everyday conversations. By expressing my honest thoughts and feelings, I not only uplift myself, but inspire others to do the same. This simple act has the potential to create a ripple effect, encouraging a culture of genuineness that fosters well-being for everyone involved. Chapter 15: Creating a Fear-Free Life. Strategies for Cultivating Courage. Identifying actionable strategies to foster bravery begins with self-awareness. Understanding your fears is crucial. Take a moment to reflect on the situations that trigger anxiety or insecurity. Once you know what holds you back, you can create a plan to confront those fears. This can be as simple as setting small, achievable goals that lead toward facing greater challenges. For example, if public speaking terrifies you, start by speaking in front of a mirror, then progress to sharing your thoughts with a trusted friend or a small group. Each step taken is a victory that builds your confidence, reinforcing your ability to be brave in the face of adversity. Building a mindset of courage in daily life requires consistent effort. It is essential to practice positive self-talk and challenge negative thoughts. This means replacing statements like "I can't do this" with empowering affirmations such as "I am capable of overcoming my fears." Additionally, surrounding yourself with supportive people who encourage growth can be incredibly beneficial. Engaging in activities that stretch your comfort zone, whether it's trying a new hobby or initiating difficult conversations, can help cultivate resilience. Remember that courage is not the absence of fear, but the determination to act despite it. Each small action can lead to significant change over time and instill a deep-seated sense of bravery. A practical tip to foster a courageous mindset is to keep a journal dedicated to your experiences with fear and bravery. Document both your fears and the actions you take to confront them. Reflect on your progress regularly. This practice not only helps track your growth, but also serves as a reminder of your strength and resilience. Over time, you will begin to see courage as a skill that can be developed, leading to a more fearless and fulfilling life. Building a toolbox for fear management. Creating a personalized toolbox for managing fear effectively begins with understanding that fear is a natural response. Each individual's experience of fear is unique, which means that the strategies we employ must also be uniquely tailored. I started by identifying the specific triggers that brought on my fears, be it social situations, performance anxiety, or fear of the unknown. This assessment allowed me to select techniques that resonate with my emotional landscape. Breathing exercises became a cornerstone for my toolbox, offering immediate relief in moments of panic. When I felt the tightness in my chest emerge, taking a few deep breaths helped me to ground myself and regain control. Journaling also played a pivotal role. Writing down my fears not only served as an outlet, but also provided clarity. As I reflected on these entries, patterns emerged, hinting at the underlying beliefs fueling my fears. This revelation allowed me to challenge and reframe those beliefs, creating a more empowering narrative for myself. Engaging in mindfulness practices proved invaluable as well, teaching me to observe my fears without immediate judgment or reaction. Each technique found its place in my toolbox, becoming a vital resource during turbulent times. Continually updating and adapting my toolbox has been essential in navigating my ever-changing relationship with fear. Life events, personal growth, and evolving circumstances all influence our fears. Adapting is not merely about adding new strategies. It's about evaluating which techniques still serve us well and which ones may have become less effective over time. For instance, when I noticed that certain mindfulness techniques no longer resonated, I sought out new forms of meditation, experimenting with guided practices, and even movement-based mindfulness like yoga. Additionally, gathering feedback from trusted friends and mentors has proven beneficial. Sharing experiences and learning from others' approaches to fear management has enriched my toolbox and introduced me to techniques I may not have considered on my own. It's crucial to remember that maintaining an open mindset will often lead to new insights and innovative approaches that can enhance our ability to cope. Engaging in workshops, reading books, and accessing online resources are all ways to keep my toolbox fresh and relevant. The key is understanding that our toolbox is a living entity, constantly evolving, adapting, and growing with us as we navigate life's challenges. Building a fear management toolbox isn't just about selecting techniques. It's about making them a part of who we are and how we respond to the world. Regularly revisiting our strategies encourages growth and resilience. A practical tip to keep in mind is to schedule time weekly to reflect on your toolbox. Consider what techniques you've used successfully and what new tools you might want to incorporate. This habit not only reinforces your commitment to managing fear, but also ensures that you remain proactive rather than reactive. By treating fear management as an ongoing journey, we can face our fears with a sense of empowerment and creativity, ready to adapt to whatever life throws our way. Living beyond fear, lessons learned. Reflecting on the journey of overcoming fear and embracing freedom is like turning the pages of a well-worn book filled with personal stories of growth, struggles, and triumphs. Each chapter of my life has been punctuated by moments of fear that once held me captive. I remember standing at the edge of opportunities, paralyzed by the unknown, feeling the weight of uncertainty pressing down on me. Yet, it was in those times of discomfort that I began to learn the most valuable lessons. The first step in overcoming fear was acknowledging its presence. Understanding that fear is a natural human response allowed me to separate my identity from the emotion itself. Slowly, I began to engage with it, examining my fears closely, recognizing them not as barriers, but as guides illuminating the areas in my life that had the potential for growth. Setting intentions for a life rooted in courage and authenticity transformed my journey into one of purposeful living. I realized that to embrace freedom, I needed to be intentional about my choices. I began crafting declarations that would become my compass, guiding me through each decision with clarity and conviction. These intentions weren't grandiose statements, but simple, profound commitments to act in alignment with my true self. Each morning, as I set my intentions, I called forth the courage to step beyond my comfort zone. I found that authenticity isn't just about being true to myself. It's also about engaging with others in a way that fosters trust and connection. This sense of authenticity began to dissolve the very fears that had once confined me, replacing them with a deep-seated confidence in my own abilities. In reflecting on this path, one practical tip emerges. When faced with fear, ask yourself what you can learn from it. Instead of shying away, lean into that discomfort. Embrace it as part of the human experience. Fear often points towards something significant, an aspiration, a dream, or a change that needs to happen. By setting intentions that align with your values, you create a life that not only confronts fear but dances with it, leading to a more courageous and authentic existence. You have walked through the corridors of fear, traced its origins, and uncovered its many disguises. You have seen how it shapes our thoughts, relationships, and ambitions. But most importantly, you have discovered the truth that lies beneath it all. Fear does not define you unless you let it. What you do with this understanding is entirely up to you. You can let fear dictate your choices, or you can use it as a teacher. You can let it build walls, or you can turn those walls into doors. The path beyond fear is not about recklessness. It is about trust. It is about stepping into the unknown with curiosity instead of panic, embracing uncertainty with an open heart, and understanding that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. Every great transformation, whether personal, creative, or spiritual, begins with one moment of belief. Not belief in an outcome, not belief in external validation, but belief in yourself. That is the alchemy of transformation. To take the raw material of fear and refine it into something more potent, more powerful, more free. So, as you close this book, let me leave you with one final thought. Fear will never disappear, but neither will your ability to rise beyond it. The choice is yours. Live boldly. Live freely. Turn fear into fuel and step into the life that is waiting for you.